Hello, and thank you for attending our webinar. This is the third and last webinar that we're doing this year on the topic of preparing students for a very different future. Now, I've heard from many people that it was the title, the topic that we're talking about that attracted you to this webinar because I wanted to be a little set a little bit of an alarm without being overboard on it because I do think that we're seeing a shift in the real world that is really impacting the future. And how we prepare students today will absolutely impact their future. So we're going to share a couple statistics that I think will surprise you, and a couple strategies that I think you'll be happy with, um, so that you're excited and you have some new ideas and maybe a new way of looking at the situation, the problem, if you want to call it that, and maybe get some good ideas on moving down the road. So with that said, if we take a look at where we're at today, I think that our classroom of today looks more like a classroom of the past, the traditional classroom, than it should look like. Our students are so just involved with media that it's sometimes very challenging to compete for their attention. But that is more important now than ever because this is not going to change. And I've seen it happening. I've been in ed tech for 28 years, and it's like I've never seen before. And there's a couple things that's happening. And as I mentioned, the disconnect between what's happening in the classroom and what's happening in the real world. And when I talk about the real world, I'm talking about the future of work. We are preparing students for their futures. We're giving them the tools to be competitive. We are giving them the abilities, the strategies, the skill sets to be productive citizens one day. Well, that one day is going to be very different. And the reason why, in my opinion, is I like to call them game changers. And there are a few technologies that have been developed that are just disrupting industries like never before. And we're just at the tip of the arrow. This is going to happen more and more. And that's why I say the future for our students will be very different because none of us can predict exactly. I will show you a way that we could try to predict that I think is rather accurate, but for the most part, we don't know exactly where we're sending them. It's going to be different. And if you look at some of these game changers, things like automation and machine learning and artificial intelligence, just replacing the human intelligence and replacing the human touch with some type of robotic system. And that's just one example of many things that are changing because of technology. So there's two ways to look at this. You could be afraid, and we've all seen the statistics. Entry level jobs are disappearing. Um, whole industries are disappearing. Job titles are disappearing. Career choices are disappearing. But you have to look at the other side of the coin. It is creating a whole new type of work that none of us are even aware of yet. Some of it's going to be hybrid jobs. Some of it's going to be high tech. A lot of it's going to require a more sophisticated learner. And I believe that is our job as educators to provide our students with that skill set, that problem solving ability where they can walk up to any environment and figure it out. And I think that is the most important skill. Well, I guess reading and walking and the written language is important also, but complex problem solving is up there. And we really need to make sure that students have the understanding of what the different tools are that the world is going to be using to communicate in the future, because they're here now and they're just going to evolve and get more invasive into our lives. And of course, new tools will be developed as well. But my feeling is don't be afraid, be excited. And how can we help prepare students so they can be problem solvers and creative and make and do and invent and provide and really thrive in this future. That's my goal. And hopefully after this webinar, you feel my passion for that, for really helping students prepare for the future. So let's talk about why. I love that question. Why? Such a great question. Why are things changing so fast? Why is there this huge disconnect between the classroom of today and the real world of work tomorrow? Well, some of us are very familiar, or maybe you're not, but there's a concept out there called Moore's Law. Moore's Law. Gordon Moore, invented the micro um, the microchip. And what happened is things just, the technology revolution happened, and that started, what, 30 plus years ago. And Moore's law says that processing power, like your microprocessor in your computer, your Pentium chip is probably what you know. You have a chip in your phone, you have chips in your car, there's chips everywhere. Your watch probably has a chip. But processing power doubles every 12 to 18 months. And Moore's law has been consistent. Now we are seeing the ends of that with silicon microchips, and they're talking about whole new types of microchips. But for the most part, the law has stood. But that's not what we're talking about. That increased processing power has created another dynamic, and it's the dynamic of exponential growth. And exponential growth has spurred innovation like we have never seen in the history of the world. And it's crazy because, in Moore's law, processing power doubles. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. I could keep track of that, without even taking my shoes off. I could keep track of that. But in exponential growth, it's 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, I'm good so far. 16 times 16 is 256. Then things go off the rails and things get big fast. And if you remember the concept of iteration, well, look at these numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't even know what that number is. That number is so large, 281 cajillion. Someone who's with math, email me or text me or send me a tweet. I don't even know. Okay, 16 times 16 is 256. 256 times 256, 65,536. Okay, I'm good there. 65,000 times 65,000. Now we're at 16 million. Okay, but after that, when you lose me, and it keeps going up from there. So exponential growth is powerful. And that is what that's what we're seeing happen right now in so many different industries, and things are changing faster and faster. So again, if you look from the 1400s to the 1950s, there was some pretty major developments. Yeah, printing press, telescope, light bulb, car, good ones, right? But then you have microprocessor, and things went bananas, and they're still going bananas. There's so many things happening. Okay, so I've made my point here. Things are changing fast because of microprocessors, because of innovation, and all these things that are happening. But let's take a look at something that's near and dear to our heart: the education industry, if you will, the whole process of it. Now, I'm not saying that things are not different. Yes, I showed that black and white classroom. That's just to get your attention. Yes, of course, classrooms don't look like that anymore. But the changes and the increase in productivity and the innovation in the classroom is not happening nearly as fast as innovation in the real world in many industries, especially in countries like U.S., China, even parts of India, just going gangbusters. And so there's this concern that this linear increase, which represents education, and this exponential increase that represents the real world, or what I like to call the future of work, which is a great concept that's out there now, is changing. And the two lines, if they haven't already crossed each other, once they do, they will never meet again. So again, there's an opportunity to be afraid, or there's an opportunity to see an opportunity. I see an opportunity. We now have an opportunity to try to catch up. Are we ever going to completely catch up with the traditional teaching model? My gut tells me no, but we could supplement the traditional model with more innovative methods of teaching and really bringing in new opportunities for students. And it's already happening in lots of schools, but how can we really create a model to do that efficiently, to share best practices with each other, and kind of simplify the process? Because we're talking about lots of classrooms, lots of schools, lots of teachers, lots of students, and obviously there's not a one size fits all, but if we could create a model that people can look at, I think that would make things better for everybody. Because what we need to do now more than ever is we need to teach better, faster. These kids, these students are so close to their careers that it's frightening that they don't have the abilities yet to be productive. So how can we do that? How can we put some effort into this, and some real intentional effort and focus and ideas to make this happen? And how can we leverage technology? Because this is our saving grace, in my opinion. Technology is driving the real world. How can technology drive the classroom? Now, there's a lot of challenges. You know, I don't know. teachers' ability level comes to mind. Equity of classrooms comes to mind. There's a lot of hurdles, obviously, but let's take a look at a couple trends that kind of paint a picture that make this a little easier to swallow. Because this is what we do. You know, in the 28 years that I've been in ed tech, 18 years as the founder and CEO of Beyond Technology Education. And I guess I should stop there for a moment because this is something that we do as an organization. I am the CEO of Beyond Technology Education. My name is Ernie Delgado. I think you've received all of my notes to attend this webinar. And this is one of the things that we do as an organization is we keep track and watch and monitor the past, the present, and the future. And there are some things happening today that I've never seen before. But one of the actually bright spots, you know, it's not the fact that technology is exploding. Obviously, we all have technology. Every one of your students and teachers probably has more than one computer. The other day, I walked around my house and I counted the number of screens, and it's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing how many screens we have in our house. And that's kind of where we're at today as a society. The good news in this technology explosion is that the fastest growing group of users are adults, ages 36 to 65. Why is that important for this conversation? Well, being in education for 28 years, there's a really, yes, we have a variety of teachers, veteran teachers, new teachers, but what's happening is that age range represents a good chunk of your teachers, if not a majority, a really good percentage of your teaching staff. And so what's happening today is teachers are more ready today than ever to use technology effectively in their classroom. And this is great news. This is awesome news because now it's easier to train. Now, 15, 20 years ago, this was a hurdle. This was a real challenge. There was a legitimate fear when it came to working with teachers. I don't see much fear anymore. What I see more is confusion. Whereas, we have technology, we use technology, teachers shop, they communicate, they listen to music, they stream content. They're using technology all over the place, in their car, in their home, in their hand, but they haven't been shown necessarily how to use that technology in the classroom. How do you transfer that skill set and give them some of the strategies that technology provides that can make them better educators and help them explain and prepare and collaborate and just start demonstrating the use of technology with students so that they see what it could be like in their future. Now, there's still a disconnect, obviously, but that disconnect is way smaller than it used to be. It's actually quite fun now to work with teachers and get them to learn about technology. There's no fear. It's usually gratitude. It's like, wow, I knew it was that easy just by a simple demonstration or sharing some tips. So this is a big one. And this is something that most schools should spend a lot of time with. How do we make sure we really get rid of that disconnect and get teachers on board consistently? And I'm not talking about playing games. There's two really extremes in education right now. There's that automated, self updating software, and that could someday replace a teacher concept. And then there's the more project-based learning: create, make, do, invent, um, enjoy using technology as a problem-solving tool. That's more where we sit. We're more on the project-based learning, getting students to work hands-on with projects with each other, tapping into resources through the internet in a safe way, and preparing them for the future, because that's how the real world works. That's how most people will eventually get introduced to the workforce, as some kind of collaborative environment. So that's really where we sit, if anyone was curious. um, Another trend, let's get back to trends, and that's the future and what students will need for the future of work. I called it future skill sets here when I made this slide. It was kind of pre-future of work, but changing career options is a real thing. Like I mentioned, industries are disappearing, others are being created, and that those who know and understand and are problem solvers will thrive in that future. Now, corporate America, for the most part, and I'm not saying unanimously, but for the most part, is a little concerned if K-12 education is doing their role to prepare the workforce of tomorrow. And they should be concerned, because that's a critical piece of the puzzle. If we're going to remain the industry or the leader of the world, in most areas, um, we need a knowledgeable workforce. We need a technical workforce. We need people that are problem solvers. We need people that are very, very smart. So we can do that. Internal capacity is the name of the game. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, we accept less international um, visas than before. Now that used to kind of pick up the slack. Well, we don't create them internally. We'll just hire foreign workers that are very smart from India or China or some of the other countries in Europe and Asia that are developing high-level skilled labor workers. And this is happening in Southeast Asia. I see it happening all over the world. Some countries are really doing a fantastic job in their K-12 environment to prepare kids for a technical future. And so that's not happening. We don't have that luxury as much as we used to. So we really need to figure out how to do it ourselves. And the opportunity is there. And we are doing a great job. I think there could be a little better job. And that's what I'm trying to create is a model to do that. The third huge trend that I love is what most people call one-to-one computing. And if you haven't done it, you should be considering doing it because the numbers, it works now. I mean, 10 years ago, it was the Cadillac approach, and probably was over expensive. And maybe you didn't get your return back then. But today, most schools that did it right are getting a strong return on their investment. And when I say return, they are developing students that are much more equipped for the future, more technically inclined, collaborative problem solvers. And the learning model, it has just been changed to a really powerful model. And so one-to-one computing is a real thing. Now, I've seen just as many schools do it wrong as I have do it right. So just be aware. I don't think buying a computer for every student and teacher on your campus is step one. It's not step one. It's step 20 or 30. So you need to make sure your ducks are in a row before you go out and do the big buy. You want to make sure your infrastructure, obviously, is ready. You want to make sure your teachers are ready. Um, Good or bad news, the students are already ready. Just so you know, they're ready. They've been ready. And then curriculum, which is sometimes not really given enough attention. You need to make sure your curriculum is prepared. Because if you have 100, 200, 500, 1,000 Chromebooks show up one day and you're not ready, that is not a good thing. That gives me anxiety just thinking about it. You need to make sure everything's are in place because the equipment is becoming less expensive. It's no longer the bottleneck. Back in the day, access was huge. I mean, when you had to spend $2,500 to $3,500 for one laptop that hardly did anything, yeah, that probably wasn't the best investment back then. Whereas today, you could spend $200 and have 95% of what you need as a technology computing device for your classroom. And now you could buy 100 of them without a problem or 500 of them without a problem. So now, now this is a real opportunity. Now we have an opportunity. However, again, I've seen just as many schools do it right as do it wrong, or vice versa, because there's no real clear model. And this is the problem we solve. Da-da! I feel like there should be a big gong. Dun! The SwimGrid model. Now, this is something that we've been fine-tuning over the last 18 years of our existence as an EdTech organization. And the SwimGrid model, school-wide integration model, is a clear strategy, and it helps you identify and quantify and articulate a really solid technology vision for your school. I wouldn't call it a technology plan, although the roots and history of the SwimGrid model is all about technology planning. In fact, back in my early days of ed tech, we used to do a lot of technology planning. That was one of the major resources that we provide to schools. Public, private, charter, we did technology plans. And people would pay us a lot of money to create committees, to do research in these different areas of technology planning, and create a report that illustrated clearly how the school can move forward effectively with technology. And it was a wonderful time in my career because I really got to help a lot of schools. And back in those days, there was something called Digital High School, and in California out here, and they were getting $300 per high school student to do digital high school. I mean, yeah, can you imagine all that? All the resources were available. So it was a great time, and we saw some really solid results. Obviously, digital high school went away. We But we took the technology planning that we did, and there was so many of them. But what we noticed is every one of those technology plans came down to these 5 areas: professional development, assess, train, support classroom teachers. No brainer. That's probably the biggest takeaway I hope you get. Number 2, make sure your students have a solid foundation in the basics of computing as they move into the upper levels. That means you need a curriculum and you need a structured environment. And not always is the classroom teacher prepared or equipped to do that, by the way. And number 3 is custom lesson creation. This is where this is where we partner with classroom teachers. We look at their existing lesson plans and identify the ones that we can make better, where technology can now do its magic, where we can make a very collaborative, powerful project. Obviously, you need to update your infrastructure and you need someone to keep all of this together. But although within each of those 5 bullets, there are lots of detail within, that's kind of the outline of the planning. And so we save schools tons of time, tons of money, tons of energy, and go straight to, here's what you're going to need. I'm not going to say that every school is exactly the same ratio of the different 5 parts, because it's not, but at least it provides a filter that we could start with. And now we can help them really drill down into what makes their school great and how technology can make it greater. So there's a concept we love to share called the 3 Cs. In order for technology to really prove itself and do what it's supposed to do at your school, your teachers need confidence, competence, and content. I know it's simple, but it's a very powerful 3-word model within a model that we really strive to help you with. So let's talk about the first C, confidence, because technology, this is, again, going back to teachers, this is probably the biggest challenge is getting all your teachers ready. We do an assessment, it's 100 questions, and then we provide a prescriptive approach to teaching for all of your teachers. Some of it's going to be group training, some is going to be small group training, some of it's going to be grade level or subject specific training, some of it's going to be one-on-one classroom, in classroom coaching, mentoring. And the goal is to make sure no teacher is left behind, that they all have this confidence, competence, and content to do this right. So there's a lot of hands-on. We are not a digital company. We're a people company. We send real live educators to work with your team, and we get great results with that. Now, is it the cheapest model? No, it's not, but it is the most effective way to do this because teachers like real live communication and relationship with people that they're working with. So an interesting research report that we read a few years back. This was done in Edudemic. It was a survey of teachers that asked, is technology essential? 86% said important or absolutely essential. That's a pretty good majority. 96% increased student engagement. So theoretically, this group of teachers from the survey felt technology was, yes, awesome, great, essential. The next set of questions was more practice. So you think it's great. Are you doing it great? The numbers dropped tremendously. Only 19% used any kind of subject specific tools, 14% any kind of digital curriculum, 92%, almost all of them thought they should be using it more, and 77% had a hard time finding resources, which led to the third section, which I think is the most enlightened part of the survey. And this is something that we see all the time. The small percentage of teachers that did feel it was essential and did feel they were using it correctly found that they were spending way too much time finding the correct resources. So this is really important because we are finding that more and more schools are successfully getting technology in their school. They're successfully raising the funds. They're successfully getting the bond measures approved. Technology is no longer the problem. We have technology, but it's creating a whole nother problem. How do we use the technology effectively in our classrooms? Are we going to play games? Are we just going to visit websites? Are we just going to download worksheets? I hope not. I hope no, no, and no to all 3 of those things. You really need to create a project-based environment where the technology is being used effectively, and you're using that super computer that we've been gifted with to its ultimate to really optimize its use in the classroom. There's so much that could happen And so really so much time needs to go into that. And schools are finding, well, we didn't think this through. And so we didn't provide enough training, that we didn't give the 3 C's to our teachers. So all they're really equipped to do, all they have the ability to do is really visit websites and do automated software, is to do spreadsheets. They don't have the ability to really create problem solving opportunities through project-based learning. And that's where students get the most benefit. So I'm not saying games and worksheets are out the window. I'm just saying you need to spend more time on the project side and less on the Y's and N and arrow key sides, because anyone can press Y's and N's and arrow keys, but to create a powerful project requires more. Something else that's interesting, we do research every year on the fastest growing occupations in America. And there's a very interesting list this year. Solar photovoltaic installers. Did you know that was a thing? It's actually pretty hot. Wind turbine technicians. Boom, also hot. Of course, we know healthcare is hot. Statisticians, software developers, mathematicians, all of these jobs require a higher level skill set. And what we have learned, and I mentioned earlier, I'm going to give you a way to forecast the future. None of us knows the future, but we could connect the dots. These skill sets, things like critical thinking, IT application, collaboration, innovation, every 5 years, the need for those skills within the fastest growing jobs keeps going up and up and up. So, as I said, none of us could predict the future, but we could connect the dots. And I don't, and if we look at the trend line up, I don't think that's going to stop. It's going to continue. So be aware. Technology is not got minimizing; it's becoming more and more important. Now, what we have done is um, we've put technology in and organized it into these 5 categories. Level 1 categories, should happen. Actually, let me take it back. Level 1, 2, and 3, all these skills should happen in a K through 8 environment. That should be, students should no longer be learning basic technology in high school. Now, sometimes you have to, because in 9th grade, you don't know where the students came from and what kind of middle school experience they had. But for the most part, students should know spreadsheets by high school. They should understand how to edit a document by high school. They should know how to do video production and photo editing, and they should understand basic coding and be prepared for the next level. So level 1, 2, and 3 should happen starting in kindergarten for most of those skills by high school. And then level 4 is now things you could do in middle school and high school. Now, level 5 technologies are things like the game changers we spoke about earlier. I'm not sure we need to teach those hands-on in elementary school or middle school or high school, but I think we need to start talking about these topics, talking about these technologies and how they impact the world, because those are going to become more and more of level 4 over time and more level 3 over time. So, and then new advanced technology. This is not an exhaustive list. This is a changing environment over time. So how do we do that? Well, this is where the content piece comes in, and developing custom lessons, partnering with teachers, looking at their lesson plans and finding lessons. We usually recommend 4 lessons per year, 4 3-week projects per year. So 12 weeks of content that needs to be completely changed into a technology-based lesson where students are collaborating and researching and creating really cool stuff. So 4 projects per year per grade, maybe 2 when we're talking about high school or middle school, 2 projects per grade. I'd have to show you a grid. It's hard to explain, but developing content. And so what we like to pride ourselves, we actually create a content creation machine. That's our job. And we have a whole team of instructional designers. And what we have found, partnering with schools to do this, you might have teachers that are already creating awesome projects. They're spending way too much time. I can almost guarantee it. So we could handle that on behalf of those teachers, and we could partner with them and do the heavy lifting on their behalf. Because if they're already doing it, they realize how much time it takes. Now we're taking that off their plate, so they can be more innovative in other areas. Then you have the other level of teachers that don't have the skill set. They don't know how to integrate a project. They don't know how to take a lesson plan and make it technology friendly, and maybe they don't even want to. Well, they love us as well. That's another big problem we solve, is we help you create awesome content consistently over time by grade from grade to grade, from year to year. And the goal is to create lots of content over time so that teachers have confidence, competence, and content. Now, obviously, to do that, you need a solid infrastructure from your data line coming in. We help you identify if you have the right one, the best price, because that costs money, obviously. But then you have the right servers, you have the right access points, you have the right switches, you have the right security measures in place, and you have a way now to identify what type of devices to use. Is it computers? Is it laptops? Is it Chromebooks? Is it tablets? And then how to create a way to replace those over time, because technology does become obsolete over time. So we help you with all of that, because we also plug in a project manager, someone who understands technology, understands the contract we have with the school, understands the opportunities available, and we like to transcend beyond vendor. We don't want to be just another vendor. We want to be a partner. We want to attend your back to school nights. We want to come to your golf tournaments. I play so much golf. I want to come to your back to school nights, or your fundraisers. We want to be part, because we want to help you become the best school in your community, and we want to help you market this. We're a marketing based company, so we understand digital marketing, and we want to help you make sure that the whole community knows how great you are and what you're doing, and that your students are getting skill sets that are preparing them for the future, and that makes your school just a cut above. We want to help you transcend from just being a school to being an institution. And you know what I mean. There's schools, and then there's institutions that have just been around. They have a great everyone in the community knows who they are, and the reputation is just stellar. And they become a tech school. And when you become a tech school, obviously student achievement improves, but you start attracting tech teachers, and the whole model kind of self-serves over time. And you're because over time, as teachers leave, you want to bring in people that really fit on the bus. So we want to help you develop a plan that will work at your school. And if you're curious what that looks like, there's a questionnaire at the end of this webinar you could answer, or contact us. You can reach us through our website, beyondk12.com. And we have a blog there up in the top right corner. It's called the Daily K-12 Daily Dose. It looks a little different now. We changed it. And we're in the process of bringing on clients for next school year, or the school year after. But the sooner we start talking, the sooner that we could kind of put you in queue. We can't take on hundreds of projects a year. We have limited capacity for new projects, but we're in the initial stage. Actually, we're getting into contract with many schools right now, and kind of preparing for the summer for training and installation, and then obviously getting things started at the beginning of the school year. And if you have a computer teacher that you're interested in getting them up to speed with our curriculum, we have a computer teacher training already scheduled for July 29th through 31st, 2019, here in Southern California. We're going to be doing it at the Hilton Hotel in Palm Springs. If you work with us, all of their costs to do that is covered in the price of the curriculum. So we would love to share more ideas with you. So take an opportunity to reach out. We're on all the major social networks at Beyond K-12. Maybe some of you found us there already, or reach out to me directly. Again, my name is Ernie Delgado. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Beyond Technology Education, and I thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.